What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. My last video on Jason did pretty good, and we talked about my concerns and worries, and honestly, I don't know what to say. I guess if you were to ask me about my thoughts regarding Friday the 13th Part 5, I would probably tell you, I mean, it's alright, but it's just not Jason. You know what I mean? That pretty much sums up my whole critique of this quote unquote Jason that's in DBD. He doesn't really look like the older films Jason's, right? The OG. He doesn't really play like the older films OG Jason's. However, if you compare him to the remake Jason from 2009, he does play a bit more similarly to that. And if I had to say, probably plays a bit more similarly to the Freddy versus Jason as well. So, in terms of being thematically accurate, I went into this expecting the OG Jason, the ones from part 2 through 10, pretty much, right? Something along those lines, right? More of a big, hulking brute, not this tiny, maybe 5'9" twink, right? That being said, Jason basically feels like a cosplayer. His power isn't horrible, but as many people, including myself, who have seen the films, the number one thing me and many other YouTubers who have seen the films that were hoping for was a built-in rage mechanic, an ability to, over the span of a trial, slowly but surely get better at breaking stuff. Just have a base kit enduring that starts off really, really weak, barely noticeable, to over the span of the trial builds up and up and up and up. Same thing with brutal strength. You slowly barely notice it at all because it's pretty much just non-existent. But as the trial goes on, the more stuns you take, you slowly start to break things quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. In terms of the whole throwing spear thing, Jason, like, throughout all of the F-13 films, he has thrown stuff, right? I really don't care that his primary power is to throw spears, but we need to be honest here. He is not known for throwing javelins like a Roman soldier, right? And at one point, I even made a joke saying, if this Jason character was literally released as like an undead Roman soldier or something as a new original killer, you probably couldn't be able to say with a straight face that this was Jason, right? And everyone's saying Jason is weak. I feel like they don't know how to properly play him. Many Jasons I went against during the PTB, I actually managed to escape from. I would say maybe 7 out of 10 I actually managed to escape from. There were 2 or 3 that rage quit over something, but many Jasons I went against were playing him in a very aggressive way, which didn't really make sense to me until I remembered, wait, no, he is supposed to be an extremely aggressive character. You shouldn't have to be lining up shots as Jason. You shouldn't have to be thinking ahead, almost like a Ghostface player would, to properly secure a down or an injure, right? And a lot of people were using his power, his teleport ability, right, as a means of transportation only, when I figured out very quickly if you use it mid-chase, by the way, you can actually grab spears and phase through windows, just walk through them, which is intentional. It is stated in his power, but I found out quickly that if you use his power as a cutoff mechanism, it works almost flawlessly. I mean, that is one thing I like, actually, about his power. The fact that he has the ability to just straight up disappear mid-chase and then reappear somewhere else. Absolute cinema. Amazing. I just feel like there's something missing. This feels like a cosplayer's interpretation of Jason, right? It feels like someone who watched maybe the 2009 remake and maybe Friday the 13th Part 6, and they were like, you know what? Yep, this is Jason. And they just kind of forgot all the rest of it, Power aside, I would probably rate his power maybe like a 5 or 6 out of 10. It's not horrible, but it's just super lackluster, and it leaves me wanting more, right? Jason, someone on Twitter put it this way. Jason is meant to be the Goku of the horror slasher genre. He is meant to basically be all powerful growing stronger and stronger and stronger the longer he's alive, right? And similarly to part 3, where Jason took an axe to the head, and then part 4, when Tommy Jarvis actually killed him. Spoilers, I guess. Those movies have been out for like over 20 years, but that's not the point. The point is, Jason, when he dies, he comes back stronger, right? And this is the theme that's throughout the entirety of everything Jason. So to see Jason start off as a 4.4 and stay 4.4 no matter what, it's kind of lame, dude. And I thought to myself, Jason being 4.6, that would be kind of broken. But then I remembered, Jason literally is broken, dude. He's supposed to be super over the top, extremely powerful. And am I saying that he should be absolutely impossible to go against? No. But I am saying that he should at least be an A or A plus killer in terms of power and traversal, right? I truly don't understand what Behavior was doing. We didn't get a survivor with this. We didn't get a map. We were supposedly getting some like original survivor after the PTB, but who cares, man? Unless it's like some kind of original version of Tommy Jarvis, some Temu knockoff, I don't care, And even if it is a Temu knockoff, why would I buy it? I don't want a knockoff, right? The same thing with Jason. I don't want a knockoff. I want the real thing, If they said, you know what, guys, we're going to be making a 2009 slash Jason versus Freddy Jason, right? We can't legally use the originals, so don't expect them. I would be much more happy with this because the 2009 remake is human and he doesn't really teleport. Freddy versus Jason, I can't remember if he really teleports, but he does have supernatural, superhuman like strength and endurability, right? In the end, this ultimately just boils down to like a cheap knockoff, really. Is he a fun killer? Yeah, absolutely. But is he Jason? Only kind of. Like, really only in name and appearance. The fact that there's no survivor or map, it really makes me feel like Behavior just didn't really fight for one of the biggest, if not the biggest, horror movie slasher icons in all of human history. It just really doesn't make any sense to me. When we got Michael Myers, we got Haddonfield, and we got Laurie Strode. Now, don't get me wrong, the F-13 franchise has been an absolute lawsuit hell for the past over 20 years because two old dudes can't sit and agree on anything on who owns what. So we, the fans, have been getting screwed over, and in Behavior's defense, I can't actually blame that on them, right? But here's the thing. Why didn't we approach the people who owned Tommy Jarvis and were like, hey man, we already have Jason in the game, and we know you two who own Jason and own Tommy Jarvis are like kind of at each other's throats, but do you think maybe just for once we could actually set aside our grudges and give the fans something amazing? Don't you think they could have done that? They did it for F-13 the game. Tommy Jarvis was there. My boy, the main, like one of the main heroes. There's still so much left to be desired, and despite me only playing him in maybe 4 or 5 real matches against real players, I did still have a lot of fun, and I was actually pretty good with him. I managed to get a few trick shots here and there, one of which was entirely unintentional, but in the end, man, I don't know. This guy truly is only Jason in name, in the way he kind of looks like him. I can't help but think the major reason why this Jason doesn't quite feel like Jason is due to the stupid lawsuit. Am I defending Behavior for his lackluster power? Absolutely not. In fact, what I imagine his power would be something like workbenches or like maybe duffel bags filled with tools, somewhere across the map, right? They're highlighted for the killer. Survivors can't interact with them, right? You'd think his power would work something like a power wheel, right? You go to these workbenches, you can select which weapon you want to use, you can probably bring a throwable with you, similar to the spears. And he could teleport too. It feels so safe, so lame, man. I feel disappointed, really. I truly do feel disappointed. Is he a fun killer? Yes. Is he strong? Pretty close. I would say he's B plus tier, if not A minus on a good day. But I don't know, man. They added 3 new Survivor perks, which they said are going to be tied to a new original Survivor coming after the PTB. And 2 of these perks are just insanely overpowered. One of them, you just fast vault a pallet, and the pallet resets. You get 15% haste for 3 seconds. The pallet's blocked for 60 seconds. And that perk ignores exhaustion. So you can already see this is kind of a big issue. A lot of people on Twitter are saying, it's not a big issue, it's not a big issue. It is a big issue against killers who have almost 0 mobility and rely entirely off of M1s to get their attacks done. That is why it's a huge issue. Because my mind immediately goes to, like, Ghostface or maybe Doctor when you're at the killer shack, right? You're on the outside of the killer shack, Survivor's on the inside. This is a very classic scenario. You have 2 options here. You can go around or you can go through the window, right? And the Survivor is going to simply loop you 3 times through the window, then they're going to pre-drop the pallet, fast vault over it, and by the time you're around the corner, they're gone, and that shack pallet's right back up, and it's got 60 seconds before they can use it again. Basically, meaning you wasted your entire time and never even got anything good out of it to begin with. Another perk, cross-examination, which can be used mid-chase, by the way, infinitely. There is no cooldown. Cross-examination makes it so you can basically see a killer's quote-unquote scratch marks. They're not really scratch marks. They're like tiny little beacons of light on the ground. And when you run into them, you gain elusive for 5 seconds. So no grunts of pain, no blood. You don't leave any scratch marks. The fact that you can use this in chase, especially against weaker killers like baby killers, I've already had one instance where a Survivor used this. And I lost them mid-chase, but I realized, okay, there's no way this Survivor could have used Dance With Me or anything like that, because they didn't have Quick and Quiet, and their scratch marks literally just disappeared out of thin air. So I, as Jason, teleported to a nearby pallet, and sure enough, Killer Instinct went off, they were there. So this perk needs to either be given a cooldown, made so it can't work in chase, or in reality, it just needs to be reworked entirely, because we use this with Stakeout Hyperfocus, and it's absolutely broken. You basically get to just tail a killer, get all of your stacks of whatever for Stakeout Hyperfocus, and then just go sit on a gen, and then, like, it's so dumb, man. And I haven't even gotten to the point yet of talking about Jason's perks and how to counter his power, because his perks are very lackluster, and they're still undergoing changes on the PTB. I have no idea what the finalized versions will be, but as of right now, the Silent Shadow perk, it recently had a little rework in the PTB, and it now gives you 13 seconds of undetectable after you hook a Survivor, and it gives you permanent undetectable at the end of a trial when all gens are completed, which is really good for endgame builds. But your first thought's probably, why would I use this over Furtive Chase? Well, the thing with Furtive Chase is you have to hook your Obsession to activate it to get that undetectable, whereas with Silent Shadows, it's just every Survivor you hook. So therefore, tunneling is actually a little bit easier with this, and ultimately, 13 seconds is really, really good on a lot of killers. It's only a 5-second difference between Furtive Chase and Silent Shadow, so it's a really good perk combined with Neutered and No Way Out for an extremely insane endgame slaughter. And another perk he has completely free, it's called Rampage. It's basically just an extremely neutered down version of what I expected Jason would have base kit. And you pretty much just have to break almost every single pallet on the map without using your power. If you use your power, it doesn't count, because of course, why would it, you know? It'd be actually somewhat decent of a perk, but basically you go around wasting your time breaking 10, 12 pallets, and then the next time you get stunned or flashlight blinded, you gain haste akin to the amount of tokens you have. You have 10 tokens, and you get stunned, you get 10% haste. You have 5 tokens, you get stunned, you get 5% haste. It's pretty trash, in my opinion. And his last perk, I forget the name of, it's a Hex perk. I know you have to hook 3 Survivors to activate it. And it basically is just a better, it's basically just a better version of the Ghoul's Hex Nothing But Misery perk. And in the end, I can't see myself ever using it, nor do I want to. So, yeah. Overall, if I had to rate Jason in a thematic sense, probably 5 out of 10, maybe 4. His cosmetics are somewhat decent, I don't really like any of them by themselves. However, because they're not linked, you can't actually mix and match cosmetics to make them look decent. So, you know, yeah, that's why I'd probably give it a 4 out of 10. The fact I have to purchase cosmetics to make him look even somewhat like the OG Jason, nah, I'm good. In terms of his power, in, you know, the whole thematic stuff set aside, I'd probably give his power a 7 out of 10. It would be higher if there was actually something original here, but there's just not. 7 out of 10 is like okay. It's slightly above average, but just barely. Just barely. In overall, if I had to rate this quote-unquote chapter, if you can even call it that, because there's only a killer and nothing else, I'd give it like a 6 out of 10. You know, Jason is genuinely fun to play, and he is fun to... He is actually strong enough to dominate, but only barely, man. This is not Jason. This is a dude in a hockey mask with a machete LARPing as him, really. In the end, let me know what you think down below. This video got a little bit ranty near the end there. A lot of people are just kind of, oh, Jason's amazing. Oh, I love Jason. And most of these people don't really seem to understand that this Jason is basically just a fan interpretation that who has maybe seen 2 or 3 movies in total, right? Am I saying you have to see all of the movies to actually understand what Jason is? To a certain extent, yeah, but not really. If you've seen more than 2 or 3, then you understand why so many actual F-13 fans are not entirely happy with this, you know? Am I happy that Jason is technically in the game now? Yeah. But every time I play as him, I can't help but feel like a Frankenstein amalgamation of multiple killers, right? His power is cool. His teleport's cool. But the whole spear chucking thing, like, come on, man. We could have done so much better than just that. But yeah, if you liked the video, feel free to drop a like or subscribe. I'm just overall disappointed with this. I expected quite a bit more. Other than that, God bless. Peace.